If you're anything like me, at some point you've probably wondered whether or not technology would one day take your job. Now, you're not alone if you have thought of this question before. There's actually communities online that focus on this very specific question. And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in today's video called How Long Until Robots Take All Jobs? So in order to fully answer this question, we'll be diving into when and why technology replaces jobs, looking at today's landscape in terms of what jobs are at the highest risk and what jobs are at the lowest risk, and then answering that sweet, savory question of how long until robots take every single job that's on the market today. So when and why does technology take people's jobs? Well, here's some perspective. If you've ever been to a bowling alley, this image that I'm showing here is probably not something you're so familiar with, whereas this image is. And the reason why is there used to be pinboys at a bowling alley, but now those have been replaced by machines. Another perspective. Now, this picture may not even be familiar to you depending on what generation you're in and how old you are, but this is a switchboard operator who used to actually physically connect one person to another in a board when someone was trying to call someone else. And today, we all just use smartphones that don't even have wires. It's all done wirelessly, and we just type in a phone number. In fact, we don't even type in a phone number. We just tap on someone's contact and press call, and we're connected with them in seconds. So another job that's just been replaced by technology. And then one last piece of perspective is this picture of a factory where there's dozens of ladies working and apparently making some sort of a product, where now if you were to go into a common factory, there's a lot of machines and maybe just a handful of people walking around. Now, why is that? Well, the reason why a lot of these jobs in the past have been replaced by machines and technology is because in many of these cases, the theme is that humans can be too slow or they can need breaks. And the reality is that installing a machine that is operated by a select number of people makes things more efficient, more profitable, and a little bit better experience for everybody involved. And this comes down to the main topic of leverage, right? Whenever we can create leverage in the world of business or in life, it makes for a better experience for us and a better result in the end. And that's ultimately why technology is introduced into the workplace to replace jobs, because it actually makes everyone's lives a little bit easier. And slowly over time, it ends up maybe replacing a job and creating more leverage in the workplace. And as I was prepping for this video, I just couldn't help but wonder around the topic of cyborgs, because, even just thinking of it from the perspective of technology advancement that's happened so far, are we cyborgs? Like, what could we classify ourselves as? Because this is very different than any other time in history where we use technology all the time to accomplish our daily lives. So I looked at the definition of a cyborg, and I realized that it's really a person whose physical abilities are extended beyond normal human limitations by mechanical elements built into the body. So the main thing that I realized was that in some ways, human limitations were extended by machineries in factories or with machines inside of a bowling alley by replacing these pinboys. But the thing was, they aren't actually built into the body. So we're semi-cyborgs today because we do extend our normal human abilities, just not using machines that are attached to us. So I wanted to think about that. I thought it was kind of interesting to just consider and keep in mind as we keep going through the video here. What jobs today are at highest risk versus lowest risk? Now, for this portion of the video, I did some research just in general to understand what is the main force at play here that's causing certain jobs to continue to be in demand while others diminish over time, whether it's gradual or suddenly. And I found a really interesting article that basically shared how routine jobs, so jobs that are associated with repetitive but relatively simple tasks like machine operators in manufacturing plants, bank tellers, office clerks, those are all jobs that are disappearing. While the non-routine jobs that are more cognitive occupations like programmers or financial analysts, and non-routine manual jobs like low-level services, those have all been increasing in employment. And so it made me realize that really the trend here is things that are done over and over again can be replaced, whether it's by software, robots, machines, AI, whatever you want to name. It can be subject to replacement, and so that was one of the first main themes that I found. But even more specifically, if we just break down where we are in this evolution of jobs being ultra leveraged by technology, what has happened so far is a lot of routine physical jobs like the pin boys and factory workers, those have all been replaced by machines, electronics, and robotics. And these are all things that humans control. And so the emphasis that I'm putting is on humans controlling those machines, electronics, and robotics. And that's exactly where a lot of the jobs today are found. They're found in controlling systems, technology, robotics, machinery that all accomplish work for us. So it ends up being more routine mental work. And this is the era that we're in today where a good amount of jobs have a routine mental aspect to them, and they've been slowly started to be replaced by software and AI, which is what we're going to start talking about a lot more in a second. But before we do that, I did want to share some of the top risk jobs and some of the lowest risk jobs that I found from a website called Will Robots Take My Job? I thought it was really interesting. This is one of those communities that regularly tracks jobs and professions that are at risk, and I'll leave a link in the description below if you want to see what your job ranks in terms of risk level, in terms of being automated or replaced. But when it came to the lowest risk jobs, there were sales managers, sales engineers, medical practitioners, engineers, security managers, fashion, chefs. Jobs in these categories all seem to rank really low on this website, whereas jobs that are at the highest risk are jobs like telemarketers, which are being replaced by new forms of advertising and marketing, secretaries and assistants, which are now easily replaced by AI or automation services, real estate brokers that have been recently started to be replaced by services like Zillow and Redfin, clerks like for orders, insurance claims, rentals, etc., all being replaced by simple online websites, machinery operators who are being replaced by AI that decide how to optimize machines that are already have replaced people in the past, bakers, which can be replaced by cooking processes and machines. And then the most interesting one that I saw on the list was actually models. And I couldn't really understand or wrap my head around this until I really thought about it and had a quick conversation with my girlfriend. Well, it turns out there's actually already a famous Instagram influencer that is not even a real person. It's actually an AI generated model. And this person is called Lil Miquela, 3 million followers on Instagram, and all the posts on her Instagram page look realistic. If you didn't know that it was technically a robot or AI, you probably wouldn't have noticed the difference in terms of the photo quality. And it's really interesting because that is a very sought after profession amongst many people today. And to see AI replace that job is very fascinating, and I think also a little bit scary maybe to some who have certain aspirations in their career and are just now realizing how their competition may not be a human, it may actually be software or a technology. Okay, lastly, how long until robots take all jobs? Well, when it came down to making this analysis, I started to look at what exactly is another trend that is starting to take off right now to replace jobs that seem secure and feel like they're not going to go away in today's world. Well, looking at it more closely, it was the non-routine mental tasks, things like programming or sales. These are all jobs that require a human element, right? Well, it turns out that as AI continues to get more and more human-like, these jobs can also find themselves being replaced by AI or machines. And it's going to end up creating another form of leverage that we have never really seen before as a human race. And so that's what creates what I would like to call a quote unquote existential crisis for humans to consider, wow, what is my role in society if all of a sudden AI takes over a lot of the mental work that I do? Well, in fact, there's a quote that says researchers believe there is a 50% chance of AI outperforming humans in all tasks in 45 years and automating all human jobs in 120 years. And they also went on to predict that AI will outperform humans in many activities in the next 10 years, such as translating languages by 2024, writing high school essays by 2026, which I had that when I was in high school, driving a truck by 2027, working in retail by 2031, and writing a best-selling book by 2049, working as a surgeon by 2053. So really interesting jobs that are sometimes sought after very highly, seem to be, especially a surgeon, you would think that that would never be replaced, but these are jobs that are being predicted to be replaced by AI and technology. So it creates this existential crisis because as humans, well, that's what we do for work. And it can feel threatening to not know what is going to happen as a result. Well, I wanted to close out the video with a little bit of encouraging news and perspective to help ease some of that potential existential crisis that might come up when thinking about this topic. And I think it's a paradigm shift of human versus AI to human plus AI. Much like how in a bowling alley today, you don't really look at the machine stacking up the pins as a threat to humans, but more as a tool that's working for you and something that makes your experience at the bowling alley much more efficient. Or like how when you pick up your phone to call a friend, not getting connected to a switchboard operator who then manually plugs in the port to connect to your friend, you actually have a better experience because maybe even Siri helped you make the call and connect with your friend so much faster than if there was a human involved in that entire transaction. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen with new technologies like AI that become more and more human-like. There will be less work on the cognitive side that we have to do as humans, so we can focus on doing something else. So there will be a human element to work and maybe an AI element to work, where humans and AI work together to create an end product and create even more leverage than we've even seen in the past. And if you're wondering what skill sets you need to focus on in order to be extra successful in a time where AI is starting to become more and more human-like, these are some skills that are important to be aware of and focusing on. Skills like creativity or having common sense across domains, empathy with other humans, or being able to navigate the unknown. These are all things that AI can't do according to the book AI 2041, which is a great book. I would recommend reading it if you're interested in this topic. And it's really important to understand that there still will be a place for AI and a place for humans only in the future of work. So to be successful in a world where AI and automation are taking a lot of the jobs of today, I think it's important to be able to think like a leader, a manager, or an owner who is controlling resources and assets like AI and software and deciding how to run an entire portion of a business or a product to create success. I think it's important to aspire towards careers that have high autonomy and control, because if you think about it, if you're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do, well, if that person can go to AI instead and tell AI what to do, well, then your job's at risk of being replaced. And lastly, I see that AI will be a tool for people who create and an enemy for people who follow others. So if you are focused on creating things, then AI will only unlock even more opportunities for you in the future to give you that extra leverage and see success. All right, folks, that's about it for today's video. If you did enjoy this video, I would encourage you to like the video. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, where we talk about new technologies and how they impact the future of life, relationships, business, happiness, and so much more, make sure to hit subscribe. And just to wrap up, I would like to leave you with one last question. What jobs do you think are invincible to robots, AI, and automation? Leave a comment below and we'll connect there. Thanks for watching.